Okay, let's first talk about a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Chapter 7 bankruptcy is legally called a liquidation. Now, liquidation is a legal word, but most people call it the fresh start bankruptcy. Now, something to think about in a fresh start bankruptcy is the court expects you to start fresh. That means that anything that you have can be looked at to see if money can be squeezed out of you to pay your creditors. Most people say, I don't have anything, there's nothing to take. But that's not usually true. The court clerk, called a trustee, will look at all of your property to see if he can get some money from you. He might look at your bank accounts, he might look at your tax returns. Something to think about is you might be required to give up next year's tax refund that you're going to get. That tax refund, used to pay your creditors. Anything stocks or bonds or large bank accounts can be taken. Anything in a bank account that isn't your wages is fair game for the clerk to take away. Now, the court gives you some things that you're definitely allowed to keep, and those are called exemptions. Like here in Florida, your house is your homestead. No one's looking at your homestead, no one's taking anything away from you related to your house. Now, your furniture can be looked at, but most people don't have furniture worth all that much. Once you've sat on it, normally it can't be sold. But let's say you have a piano. That piano might have some value, can be taken away from you. So part of planning for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy is to think about, do I have anything that can be taken away from me? If you have things that can be taken away, Chapter 7 might not be your best type of bankruptcy. Now, the other type of bankruptcy, Chapter 13 bankruptcy, is a payment plan bankruptcy. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But in a payment plan bankruptcy, needless to say, you pay over a long period of time. Benefit of a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, the one we're talking about and probably going to file, is really short. The total amount of time it's open is between 90 and 120 days. Sometimes a little bit longer. But it doesn't take that long to finish what they call administer a Chapter 7 case. Normally, 6 weeks after we file the bankruptcy case, a Chapter 7, you're expected to go to court with me. We meet with that court clerk, called a trustee, who's really going to ask you questions to see if there is any property that he can take from you. Property sometimes can include equity you have in a car. Most people say, well, I need my car to get around. Equity in a car, the total amount you're allowed to keep here in Florida, if you have a house, is only $1,000. Most people say, well, my car's worth more than $1,000. That's something more that you would want to think about if you're going to file a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Now, the second really good thing about a Chapter 7 bankruptcy is you don't have to pay money to your creditors. Normally, if you don't have those things we talk about, the stocks, the bonds, the bank accounts, equity in a car, or tax refunds, if you don't have any of those things, Chapter 7 is a relatively safe type of bankruptcy to file, and the best part is you don't have to pay your creditors like you would in a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. So, Chapter 7, two good things, pretty quick, it's done 90 and 120 days, and you don't have to pay your creditors. The drawback, though, is you really are going to be scrutinized. A trustee, a court clerk, is going to ask you a bunch of questions to see if he can take away your property from you or squeeze money out of you. He might say to you, you know what, I think all of your property is worth more than you're saying. I want $3,000 from you. I want $2,000 from you because your property really is worth more than you're telling me. So those are factors in a Chapter 7. Now let's talk a little bit about a Chapter 13 bankruptcy.